1, 2, 1, 2.
On the contrary, with Mojak Lehoko, take one.
We're marking this for sound ID. So you can sync it later.
Yo, bro, I was struggling to sync the stuff this whole week because I always forgot to clap it. But okay, cool. Let's do a sound check. Go.
1, 2, 1, 2. Ranting's rude boy. In the area.
Okay, sharp. Away. We're ready to go.
Cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of On the Contrary with Emilio Tobias. This is week 3.
Yes.
With me relaunching the podcast. This is my third guest. Thank you if you're still listening. It's been going well.
Yes.
It's clear you guys don't want to hear me speak.
Oh, wow. Is that the feedback?
That's the feedback, bruh. My other ones where I'm speaking solo has like 13 views.
Just believe, dog.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. My guest today is Mojak Lehoko. I don't usually do like a big, what do you call those things? Credentials.
Yes.
But you have seen him on MTV. Comedy Central.
Perhaps.
Oh yeah, you won the roast, ne?
I did win the roast battle. I murked. Shame, man. Eric Jansen. I was untidy, boy.
It's rough, bruh. I haven't seen Eric Jansen since.
He's still around. He's on the circuit. Bless him. I like him, but I had to do what I had to do. You know.
Eric is fire.
Yeah.
I want to apologize up front
Why?
and say and apologize to people who are listening. This might come across as like a therapy session.
Why? You should have told me that first. Why? What are we talking about?
I'm telling you now, this is live reactions, bruh. I feel Mojak you actually inspired the name of this podcast. I don't know if I've told you.
Because I called you a contrarian.
Because you called me a contrarian. And at the time, that was my first time I heard that word.
Okay.
I heard that word for the first time. And I was so insulted because when you explained what it meant, you said, you like to argue. That's your thing. I figured you out. Yo, bruh. That hurt me, bruh.
I think you like having opposing views to what exists. I think that's your vibe.
And the reason why I say this might sound like a therapy session is like, I feel like right now, you're the person that understands me the most.
So my training of watching psychological thrillers. No, I don't know
If I became a serial killer, you'll be the only one to be able to catch me.
Yes, I'll be like, I know what Emilio did. He went to Starbucks at 11. Obviously.
And now he's hiding at Kitcheners.
Yeah, CCV tape. I told you guys. Give me my medal. I don't think they do medals here, but that's for another day.
So no, like I spoke about like the whole contrarian thing. I did research. Shortly after, D.R. Hughley came out with a stand-up special called Contrarian.
Yes.
I watched the special. I didn't relate to it. That wasn't exactly where I was.
Yes.
But like I found like Urban Dictionary, and there were like 8-9 different definitions
of contrarian.
Of being a contrarian.
Why did you go to Urban Dictionary though? Well, there's a real dictionary.
I was just looking it up.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But all those 9 different ones, there were like 5 that I was like strongly like, okay, that is like my personality. That is who I am.
Sure.
And some of the definitions, which I think you would agree with what a contrarian is, I didn't feel strongly.
Sure.
But then again, I'm judging myself.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I would just go with the dictionary meaning, but I mean, you were just doing background, I guess.
Yeah.
Research.
Because it means different things. Like even now, we're gonna argue about the definition about a contrarian.
You don't have to argue. Just Google it.
Okay, let's do it.
It's very simple. The aim is not to sweat.
But like the fact that you saw a contrarian in me,
yes,
it was something. Because now I was going on this journey to figure out what this thing is. Hence me embracing my polarizing personality.
Well, yeah, you go opposing or rejecting popular opinion or current practice.
But like that sounds like I'm just disagreeing for the sake of it, just to be interesting.
Well, it doesn't come with. It's not loaded like that in the definition. That's something maybe you inferred or put on top. You know what I mean? It doesn't say someone who does that for the sake of it. It just says that's what it is, like to oppose a popular opinion. So I don't think you necessarily do it for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Or maybe you do. Maybe you like devil's advocate as a philosophy.
Do you know what sometimes happens, right? And I swear it's subconscious.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can believe something and I can think something, but what will happen is as soon as someone else agrees with me,
Yes.
I start to feel like I'm wrong. There's something that I'm missing.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong with being wrong. That's where you learn, right?
Yeah.
That's the first stage of learning something. Like, people, like when you go to school, man, like those first few weeks of maths, like
Yeah.
you're not supposed to just get everything right immediately. And the process is showing you the error of your ways, literally going, oh, that's where I made a mistake. On that line, I didn't carry over the two. You know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
being wrong is not necessarily a terrible thing. I think we've vilified it now that we immediately want people to know exactly what the world is and what our political views should be and that they should agree with them. But there's lots of stuff or lots of things that we don't know as people, and that's fine. You don't have to know all this shit.
And you know what I found what will happen is, and it's kind of influenced like how I speak to people or how I argue with people.
Yeah.
Is that most people, even if I'm arguing with you and then it turns out that I'm right, like you feel so bad just to admit that you were wrong, that you will rather double down on your argument and vice versa. Sometimes I've been arguing too long with a thing or I got a bit emotional.
Yes.
Then it turns out, oh shit, this person is right. But now my ego will not allow me to admit the thing.
Well, that's the problem with a lot of people who argue. They're not really arguing to find a new solution. They want to be heard.
Yeah.
A lot of arguments are just people wanting to have their opinions heard and express them passionately, as opposed to going, school me on this idea or topic. So they walk in with a belief that they've held for however long, and then they're like, I'm sticking to this. Like, there's nothing you can tell me that'll change my perspective. So then it just becomes this really trivial exchange of ideas, and you're just upset and they're pissed off, and everybody walks away not having learned anything. So it doesn't really help people out.
So like, I want to ask you like, so I might have that insight on the thing, but it's not first nature when I'm dealing with someone.
What do you
Like,
mean?
First nature is like, oh, this person doesn't really want to find the truth in this thing. And this could be, I could be in the wrong in whatever situation.
Sure.
So like you're interacting with someone and only afterwards I'll realize, oh, this person wasn't really searching for the truth. It wasn't a argument to find a solution. It was
Yes.
I actually just want to be heard.
Yeah.
And that will always be an afterthought to me. How quickly do you think because I feel you've had a lot more experience with people. You deal with people way better than I think I can. How quickly can you figure out like, this is what this person wants me to say and this is who I need to be in this interaction?
Well, I think if you prime yourself knowing that the point you just made, that a lot of people just go into arguments to say what they say, then that interaction doesn't become as precious, and you can walk away from it because like it's not my responsibility every time I talk to somebody to educate them. It's kind of boring also for the most part. I'm like, this is exhausting. Like, I want to talk. So often, like you see with sport. So I don't even talk to a lot of people about sport because, one, they don't even play a thing. You'll hear a guy talk about soccer and you're like, when did you kick a ball? What are you talking about? You don't like someone will judge someone missing a scissor kick. Then you're like, show me in your life where you even had the audacity to attempt that, let alone have it be successful. So you're not talking from prior knowledge. You're not an expert in any field, and we all have opinions. I'm not sitting here like I'm always right or whatever. But so I'm well aware that this exercise could be very trivial, and I mustn't invest too much into people's.
Yeah, bro. Then you
like
go
views.
home, then you can't sleep, and you're like, yo, tomorrow when I wake up, I just want to clear up what I said to this person.
Yeah.
I must learn to let go a bit better.
And so other people, just to add, is that they will dump their bullshit on you, right? Carry on, have a fun night, have a good ass time, boy. They popping bottles. You're like in your bed, like
You're sitting there with that, bro.
The man you were arguing with is with 3 Hanses, 2 homies, is 8 bottles on the table. You having a sleepless night because you don't feel understood.
That's my life, bro. The other day, Tsitsi and I, and Tsitsi's girl and my girl, we were all having a discussion, and Tsitsi wanted to get something off his chest.
Yes.
That happened to us with other people.
Okay.
And then we spoke for like an hour and a half, bro. We paused Project X. We wanted to watch Project X, bro.
Yeah.
And then when we're done, Tsitsi was like, I'm so happy I got it off my chest. But now I was amped up, bro. Like,
Yes, you hype.
and from the beginning, I was like, guys, let's move on. Let's just watch the movie. By the end of the thing, this man was happy. He was free.
Yes.
Me, I held on to all of that nonsense, bro.
But that's the point. I mean, however you view the kind of things that were said, like, and a lot of conversations are like that. Somebody, and they're not necessarily actively dumping sometimes on you. They're just expressing themselves. But in doing so, that stays with you. That's how some people shouldn't like tell their secrets to their friends. They must go to therapy. Because when you tell us, it's loaded. Like, even if I've become conscious of talking about other people, because then I leave that thought in your head, right?
Yeah.
So then your next interaction with that person is going to be in some way influenced by something I may have said. If I go, let me reason that random name. Like, if I say Darren Simpson the one time we did this, then that becomes
my view of
you know what I mean, or like a piece of it. So
now whenever I look at this man, I'm like, yo, this man thinks I don't know what he did.
Yeah, you know, well, some people do wild, spicy shit. So it's really tricky for me when talking about stuff like that, who I let know, because they will inevitably carry that secret or thingy with them. So that's why, I mean, I'm not great at it, but that's why sometimes I don't tell people stuff. I'm just like, I don't want you to walk with that or whatever.
Yeah, I struggle to keep secrets, especially if it's like an exciting thing, bro. I tell everyone, bro. Even if I know, I'm telling the person who's going to be upset that I have good news.
Why, are there people in your life who are upset you have good news?
Yeah, bro. But I'm working on it, bro. And the relationship is better. But there are people who are like, it's like someone told me, don't show someone your life that might walk away and feel bad about their own life.
Well, we don't know that. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you know?
You also have to judge now their life to see if they. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's tricky because now you're policing your own. You're policing your life in the fear that others. Look, as long as you're not rubbing things in people's faces, then it's cool. But
yeah,
I don't know. I grew up in hip hop, man. It's like, you know.
Tell you what happened.
Where it's like, yeah, I got a Benz that I ain't even drove yet. And I'm not like, yes, I want to punch Diddy in the face. I'm like, that's kind of cool, bro. You got a Benz or you haven't pulled out of the garage. Where maybe someone that like a lot of this stuff is about proximity.
Yeah.
So when people are successful far away from you, it's a lot easier to applaud, celebrate, and aspire to. Yeah. But when it's close to you, you often... That's where the comparison is created.
Yeah.
So, I'm doing this. Emilio just went to Bosnia for a week, and then he went to Rome, and then he went...
And now he's chilling with us, drinking quarts.
You know what I mean? Where was I? Yo, bro, I was in Menlyn, you know? It's like... So, it's, a lot of the upsetness is proximity. I've seen it. I mean, I work in stand-up, so that's the world I can talk about. It's tough when... people close to you, near you, that you do similar kind of work to get different opportunities to you, and that's a thing that I think a lot of people struggle with. It's all proximity. It's like colleagues, peers, people in your social space. Because no one's beefing with Celine Dion and.
It's funny. I'm actually on a Celine Dion tip right now, bro.
Oh, wow.
I'll show you on my phone. I downloaded 4 Celine Dion albums and I've been listening to it since yesterday, bro.
I can't.
I think once a year you must have a month where you listen to Celine Dion.
I just can't.
Another month where you listen to Michael Jackson, and then I don't know, Bob Marley maybe.
Maybe I'll see. I don't know about Celine Dion. Maybe I'll try one of the other ones.
It's like, I think the last of like my deep mental issues. Like when I was a kid, nah.
Yes, go ahead. I've become the Dr. Phil of comedy.
Bruh. And it's better if you had something to drink, bruh. It flows, bruh. And everyone just listens, bruh. But it's like when I was a kid, I always had stuff.
Yes.
And like I make a joke about like, we weren't that well off.
Yeah.
But it was people that were poorer than us that tried to make us feel poor.
Oh yeah, of course.
So like I always had a thing whether it was people around us or even some family members who would put me down
Sure.
for the fact that my father has a job and we we seem like we sorted. You get what I'm saying? So what that has done is I realize what that has done is like throughout my life I've always hid either my talents or my potential or like my successes.
Yes.
And then like in a way it has like pulled me back.
Sure.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now I don't want to try as hard because there's gonna be opportunity for someone to say like, yeah, look, he thinks he's better and what.
Well, once you accept that that's inevitable, it's liberating. There's always
Yeah.
going to be somebody who has a bad opinion of you, who doesn't like your work. It's the nature of the beast. You're not going to please everybody, but
yeah,
but if you don't do things in the fear that people aren't going to like it, you've already lost the battle. The key is to make stuff, put it out there. Some people like it, they'll gravitate to it. Some people are like, well, this is a waste of my time. And it's like, so what? You keep it moving.
yeah,
And don't... I mean, I know that feeling too. Like, you know, sometimes you have what is referred to as winner's remorse.
yeah.
So you're having a good ass time, and the people around you are taking mad L's.
The imposter syndrome vibes.
Not so much imposter syndrome. That I'm fine with my work and what I do. I'm just mean like, you can worry about, you know, like the life you live, because people around you may not live the same life. They may not have the same freedom, and if you talk to them, it maybe sounds like, oh, that guy's an asshole. He's like he lacks empathy. But I'm like, look, man, I chill in my crib. I do what I like when I like. And someone might go, that's dope, I'd love to do that. And some be like, oh, listen to this dickhead. He's like, he just sits at home, and it's like, wow. But I also busted my ass to be able to do this shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just a random coinky dinky. Someone.
Hello.
So it's not just a random, like this shit didn't fall into my lap.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people do downplay themselves. There's this kind of, you know, I mean, I'm not referring to you in particular, but like Loic always say South Africans have really low self-esteem. We're always worried about that kind of external stuff.
Yeah.
And you can see it in people where they don't.
And that plays into the whole black tax thing, huh?
How so?
Like if your parents put you through school, you're in university, you're doing well now, but your parents are still staying in the same house.
Sure.
And you feel like it's not fair that your parents are staying there and you staying here. So then you try and boost their life out of like a winner's guilt, like you said.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think there is some of that, like,
because the pressure of black tax isn't one-sided. Like also like when your parents or your family force you to pay black tax, it's like it makes sense what they're saying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends on the structure of your family. You know, like not all families
True.
are like either having a difficult time financially and economically. Some families, you know, like the one cool thing about generational wealth is that you kind of eliminate that thing.
Yeah.
Is that for the most part your parents won't require you to take care of them in that way unless, you know, it's like a major crisis where it's like health stuff, you know what I mean? Like, so I think, and this is just me spitballing, but I think one of the ways of alleviating that necessity is that we're all like economically doing well. But of course life isn't like that. That's a very, I guess, utopian idea that we're all doing well, so then we eliminate the need to bring someone up with us. Because like, yeah, my parents did a lot for me. You know, I appreciate it from them. But I think a great moment from them and from my side was kind of us not needing anything from each other. And so then everything we did was out of like, what's the word? Like, appreciation is not the right word, but we were just,
you were free. There was free will.
Yeah. It didn't feel like an obligation. Maybe sometimes it was just a request going, look, I need this. It didn't have the regularness of, I think, what sometimes black tax can be.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like, every 2 months, chuck here, where I think
Yeah, I need to send your granny money. You need to. Are you?
Yeah. I mean, that one makes a bit more sense with like grandmothers and like
Yeah.
because they're old, they're not working anymore, and so
I had a thought, and you're reminding me of that now about. I guess it's the generation or young people right now.
yeah,
A lot of us who seem like our lives are gonna be fine. We
sure,
don't need financial aid, and we're not pressured into paying black tax because our parents are fine.
yeah,
But the other thing about generational wealth is that, like, what would happen is, and I've seen this with a lot of white people,
yeah,
their parents would buy them a house for their wedding.
sure,
But now, us as people of color,
yeah,
whose parents might be in a position to pay a deposit on your house,
yes,
you refuse it because you want a hero story. We don't see that as like noble, or because your
yeah,
parents went
yeah,
through way more than you went through,
yeah,
and we kind of turn down handouts and not realize that that's how everything moves forward. Now you're taking 15 years to buy a house because you're
yes,
saving for 15 years when
yes,
your parents could have given you, but like
yeah.
you want a struggle story yourself.
I totally agree with that point. I think there's a lot of people who are not accessing the networks that they have. Like, like
Yeah.
pride is good. You should be proud of what you do, but it mustn't hold you back. Like, who was I talking to? I was like, a lot of major multinational companies. Some of them just started out as like mom and pop stores
Yeah.
or like family businesses. You know what I mean?
And your
Like,
job is sorted. You just need to get your matric. Your job is sorted.
yeah, So I mean, people have weaponized the idea of working with your family and whatever. But if it's a private organization or institution, it's like, yeah, I work with my moms or whatever. But I think the point you're making is that we're not willing to have people give us a jump start or a boost
Yeah.
out of pride, and I think that's really like silly. Like, if you're trying to buy an apartment and someone in your family is willing to break you off that deposit, go up, take it. Like,
Yeah.
because I also don't think it's like leeching. You're just asking for
Yeah.
and
And your parents are at the age where they're like financially stable. They're not
yes,
splurging on stuff. They know exactly what they can afford. They can
sure,
afford to buy your house.
yeah, and you as a family, you are acquiring immovable assets, property that will live in your, you know what I mean? It's not a
Yeah.
frivolous purchase. You're trying to kind of, I think, liberate yourself economically. So I think a lot of people do that, not just with like parents. I think in life they're not willing to just ask for help,
Yeah.
and so they slow down their whole process by not just going to the next level, by going, I'm gonna figure this shit out myself. Why? What else do you do like that?
There's a thing on Facebook that I saw that was like, this inspired, like I find it dumb afterwards. It sounds poetic, but it's actually dumb. Where it's like, I don't want to ask food from someone who is going to tell me next week how they fed me. And my thing was just like, yo, bruh, even if I ask you for food now and I'm down and out in my luck, I don't mind that next week you're going to go brag and put me down and put yourself high and mighty. At the time, I
had no
needed
food.
that food.
Yeah.
Like my pride is not more important than sustenance.
Yeah, I mean, there's a balance. There's a balance between being like self-motivated and doing for self and getting yours. And there's also value in asking people for help. Like, don't lock yourself in. Don't, like a lot of this stuff is just like ideas people have projected that have been projected by society, and so then we take them on, and we're trying to be.
And we're a very young society. Like white people have, and maybe it's not white people, but they have like generations and generations of learning the stuff, bruh. Do you get what I'm saying? Like when certain immigrants, like I hear stories of what's this guy's name? Saul Kuzna.
Yeah.
His parents are Italian or something like that there. And his parents moved to South Africa for a better life, and they grew up very poor.
Sure.
But although they were poor, they still came with like a wealth of knowledge, bruh, on how to build a thing where things are fair. Because they left where they come from because it was unfair there for them.
Yes.
And they came to a place where it was fair.
Well, I mean, I don't think it was fair. I think they had a leg up. If anyone who came,
fair to them. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Or
mean,
legal,
like,
yeah.
if you're like a white immigrant that arrived here during like apartheid in those eras, it's like, there was legislation in place that protected you. So even that, I'm like, it is not really a true reflection, because their leg up was their whiteness in the world that was oppressing black people. Like, it wasn't fair. Like, they weren't competing in the same markets. Like,
Yeah.
Black people had limitations in terms of jobs they can do. If it was and that's one of the, I think, the crazy things about apartheid is that if everyone was just like fair game, we would be so much further than we are now. Because now we're addressing,
Yeah.
Infrastructural things that occurred during then, societal. It's like there's a lot of things, but I hear what you're saying. I think a lot of our parents, because of the era in which they grew up in, didn't have even just the time and the space to like pursue entrepreneurship or whatever it is. It's like you have to teach, do that, and so
they were forced to be hard workers.
Yeah.
As opposed to strategic and
So they weren't. There wasn't a level playing field, and they were put in certain boxes, and so that put a cap on certain people's ability to exist in certain spaces or do certain types of jobs that would have created this, possibly created this generational wealth and access and networks to people within your frame. And some parents did get that, the kind of middle class that started working later on, and they might have that access now, but it's still not perhaps at the level that it could have been, because of the environment in which they grew up in and lived in for the most part.
So there was I'm changing the topic now.
I should have deep wave.
I'm trying to think like, which clips am I gonna cut up in that section?
I talk too much.
So there were updates on the whole FeesMustFall thing. You were still in Vets at the time of FeesMustFall started, no? Or you were a year out?
FeesMustFall is weird because like those student protests happened for a long time from when I started even at Vets. So in 2006, I remember there were protests every year. It's kind of the same time. So I'd seen different iterations of it, but the one that popped off, I was doing my final 2 subjects in 2016, I think.
So what had happened was, and the thing I want to talk about is because Yaku, you know the history of the whole thing.
I think so.
You were there for a lot of it.
For bits, yeah, for quite a few bits and pieces.
But now, the guy who got arrested, and he got released like in December apparently, just before Christmas.
Yeah.
But like my thing was, that man should stay in jail, bruh.
Why?
Everyone is like, nah, this man was fighting for free education, and it happened, the fights and whatever. This man tried to burn a police van, bruh. That is must not okay in a protest, bruh. Even in there's a reason, like, we come from a history where we know that, like, protest sometimes is the way to get things done.
Yes.
But this is not apartheid. We can't resort to violence. In apartheid, I understand why we had to resort to violence and why it could have ended up that way.
Sure.
But we're no longer there. So now when we protest, burning a police van is not justified.
Well, I think there were a lot of things that happened in that. There was lots of crazy stuff that happened then. There were some instances where, I'm going to say allegedly for legal purposes, allegedly, one more time, incidents where law enforcement was like attacking students, and then it was like all kinds of weird stuff happened during that time.
But is there like, if police use, I don't know if they use rubber bullets, smoke cans, and all those stuff, crowd control. If a crowd seems like it's going to get out of hand and violent, then you find that it's necessary for police to use some force. They weren't planning on killing the kids because there was no threat of anyone losing their life or anything like that there. But there was a threat of this protest might go violent or hostile.
Well, I'll speak personally. First, South Africa's got a very violent history. So when protests become violent, it's like, well, Like the country was kind of built on that, like on both sides, particularly with the regime that people lived under, and so then their kind of peaceful protests and demonstrations. Eventually, people were like, "This is not going to work. We need to militarize it."
And there were a lot of aspects of FeesMustFall that were like silent, sit down protests.
Yeah, I mean, but that happens with every protest. There's different factions within it. Everyone has different goals and outcomes. You know, I'm reading a book now about the Israeli-Palestine, the Oslo agreements and whatever. And even there was like the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, that had two factions. One that was inside, and then one that was kind of made up of exiles. And Yasser Arafat had chats with different people, and it felt like he didn't represent. So, you know, any struggle is going to have certain people claiming different elements. But the thing I want to talk about is like, because you're saying you shouldn't have vandalized the car. I don't know whether that's wrong or right, but because I don't know the full context of what he did, and you know, I don't think we should be burning stuff, but that's some people's way of kind of getting their message across. And I'm not saying it's wrong or right. What I'm saying is I understand it, considering the history of our country. That like, you know, is petrol bomb shit was happening back in the day. It's like, okay, cool.
Like I feel like we can applaud him, we can be happy for him, but I don't think the South African justice or government should have released him, because now the message that it sends is, if I really feel passionate about something, that gives me a right to burn a police van. That's how I get things done. I can. Some protests are illegal. Like I spoke about the protest about that there was a lady who did like a naked protest in front of the union buildings because there were some powerful government officials who sexually harassed her, and when she said something about it, she got fired.
Yeah.
I think it's Nube or something like that.
Sure.
She did a naked protest in front of the union buildings and got arrested.
Yes.
Now my thing was, well done to her, because her goal was to get the word out there.
Yes.
To get those guys who victimized her, get their names out there.
Mm-hmm.
But she did the protest knowing that there's a chance that she can get arrested.
Sure.
Hence the nobility in the protest.
Okay.
Then she got arrested and she was fighting with the police, and the police were just trying to hold her and grab her. And then the police, on Twitter, the police were the bad guys in that situation.
Yeah, man. I mean,
when the police did what they were supposed to do, she knew that was the risk that was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like a lot of these things they have to do with power dynamics. So first of all, like, sometimes, like, it's sometimes unfair for people because the society they live in, no one's held accountable, but then when they protest, it like has to be done in a particular way. And then it's like, that's not fair. If these guys are doing dirty here, it's like, why is like the onus on me to play within the rules? In terms of the police and you saying them doing their job, you know, it's like, okay, cool, they did it then, but I think the greater issue is that they weren't doing it prior to this.
True.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so you're gonna arrest one woman who's protesting, but all these motherfuckers who've been committing heinous crimes are walking in the street. Like, you know, that doesn't really make sense to me. So, hello, and so it's like they're doing their job now.
I hear you. Like
now,
for me, the inherent risk of a protest, and I'm changing the example again. If I say I'm not getting paid enough at this job, I'm gonna do a strike by not showing up at work. Yeah. I know that if I do that, there's a chance of me getting fired.
Sure.
And that's a risk that I'm willing to take right now.
Okay.
I must not be shocked when I lose my job.
Yeah, I guess.
There's the nobility in a protest. If someone says, I'm willing to put my life down for this thing, yes, we give you applause for risking your life and be willing to risk your life. And then when you actually lose your life, we'll celebrate you even more because you're willing to die for the thing and your death was not in vain, so to speak.
Yeah,
get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I just
You put yourself in the light. That's why there's not a lot of heroes, or most people aren't heroes.
Well, I mean, you shouldn't have to like fucking the person. They shouldn't murk the person in the first place. Like, you, we can't live like in a martyr society. It's like,
What does that mean?
you know, when somebody dies and then we just like we hail them as this like,
You help the cause.
yeah, they sacrificed themselves so that we could live. Like, you know, we can't all do Jesus shit, and we shouldn't have to. We shouldn't all have to, you know, be like, I'm gonna die for the sins of all of you. It's like that's a strange world to live in, where the repercussions for disagreeing with somebody are so harsh in like a democratic society. You should be able to engage with people on issues and highlight the problems and say, hey, look, man, this company or this utility or this place isn't doing well, or this official is not behaving well, or this official has been accused of this, or this system is like so.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't think it should have gotten to where it got to in 2016. When I say it shouldn't have, I mean like I wish we lived in a society where we didn't have to go that far.
He didn't have to come to that. Yeah.
Yeah, where those kids had to go through. You know, that was traumatic for those students. Like, shout out to them for doing that work and whatever. But I would meet some of them in town in Pram, and it was like some of them looked disheveled, boy, like beaten down physically, mentally.
Like way after that, or
in
during
in the midst of all of that.
You know how to find that?
It's like that. No one should have to go through that.
Like young people have this thing about them, and like cool on the protesting. I'm for it. I'm all for it. Yeah. It's just the reaction to getting into trouble for the thing, when you knew that was the risk, and now your goal is achieved because the whole thing got fulfilled. Like Jesus wouldn't be the thing he is now if he didn't actually get killed. He was willing to get killed, and then he got killed.
Yeah.
Which fulfilled the whole thing.
Sure.
But like for me, like what I've always found with young people, whether it was people my age, and it's just me thinking of things differently, young people always feel like they know best. Like they know better. And that is sort of the thing that like that wiles them up, that gives them the fight and the motivation to push for something.
Yeah.
Then you find when you're 30, 35, now you don't like when the new kids are doing that, because now you know better and you know that's not the way to go about the thing.
Well,
you see like a youthful naivety.
Well, yeah, you know, a lot of causes are carried by young people protesting. It's like, and also the stakes are different at different ages. If you're
Give
young,
me 2 seconds.
If you're young, it'll stop.
Sure.
Second clap. Oh, 2 claps. That's messy. Talking about young people. Young people do generally carry the torch when it, excuse me, comes to protesting and industrial action.
Yeah.
It's because of where they are in their lives. When you get older, like you have a family, you have all this stuff, there's a lot.
Yeah, your time is about to end. You're not seeing as far as a young person can.
Not even just seeing that, like you're more focused on your immediate environment.
Oh, and young people have this thing where they still have the belief that they can change the world.
Yeah, which is cool. I think they've made lots of important impacts in society. When you're young, you'll, I think, a bit more militant. And then sometimes that just gets beaten out of you. Like, you know, I think old people want to go out, like, running the streets and, like...
Yeah, your metabolism is slowed way down.
You know, you like, can't be dodging rubber bullets in a stroller, you know? It's like...
But, like, I also get that, like, sometimes certain personalities and cool young people sometimes take that too far. but a lot of the time it's what was needed. And that thought wouldn't have come from anyone else in a different situation. I also get that, like, the way I handle situations is good for certain things.
Yeah.
And it's gotten me this far, but it can only bring me that far. So, like, I think as you get older, you become, like, more well-rounded. And that's what I feel like you've mastered more than I have at this point in my life. You become more well-rounded and you diversify in approaches.
Yeah, I think for me, like I'm wrong on a lot of stuff and I still have my opinions, but I try to consume different things and listen to different people and have conversations with people who are maybe 10 years younger than me, who are 20 years older than me, who have multiple perspectives, and then from there generate my own. Because I think a lot of the time, people are just repeating shit they've heard,
Yeah.
like in media, and then that becomes the way they see the world without stepping back and taking stock. And so often with me, if something happens like in the news, I'm generally not gonna say anything until like a week or two later, because one, I don't like to speak without all the facts. To me that's kind of childish. Like, if you're gonna make opinions,
Yeah.
not knowing the full context of what's happening, and
I've like argued with people, and then like they're like, yeah, but this person told me this and this and this, and this person is an expert in whatever. Then I'm like, why am I arguing with you then? Let me argue with that person who told you all of this stuff.
Exactly. Like, and why are you their proxy? Who gave you the right, like, to speak on the? That person doesn't need a spokesperson. But the point is that, you just consume different stuff, have different insights, get all of the facts, and what I was gonna say is people don't read also. So like,
Yeah. Guilty.
yeah, I mean, and I'm not talking about like reading a book a month or whatever. I mean like a headline will pop up and everybody runs with the whole thing. It was a small thing that happened recently. Meghan Markle signed a deal to do voiceovers for Disney. That was the headline.
Oh yeah, I saw that thing.
People commented immediately. Then if you dug deeper into the thing, it was like she was doing it in exchange for donations to an elephant program.
She's making zero money from the whole deal.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So now I'm in the world, I'm fighting, it's telling me, Meghan Markle, then I'm like, yo, just read the thing.
Read further, yeah.
Yeah, and people don't.
It's funny how very few people can pick up fake news just from looking at the thing.
Yeah, some people will even...
Because those sites don't even try to look credible.
Yeah, you're there at southafricanbiz.net.tainment. And nothing in your head goes red flag. So many people. I was listening to this podcast called Power Corrupts.
Yeah.
They were talking about misinformation and disinformation. I forget that they're not the same thing. To be misinformed is to like not know or to have wrong facts or something.
Okay.
Disinformation is to intentionally put false information into the world. Yeah. To change perspective. It's very different approaches.
Misinformation is a mistake.
Yeah. Disinformation is like we're making a concerted effort to have
mislead people.
Yeah, to have a smear campaign about Emilio. So what we do is we write an article with some facts in it. So it's still credible. It looks it on the face of it.
That's what propaganda is.
Yeah.
90% facts.
So we go da-da-da, and then midway through we write some other shit. We're like, yo, that nigga thought, once said dinosaurs can beatbox. Then people in the world are like, yo, Emilio, you think dinosaurs could beatbox, nigga? How? With what?
Let me show you. Where's this article?
Yeah, then like that's there. So people don't read that article and then go, let me find out more about this topic. They just go, it's there. It must be the truth.
You know it's rough,
and that's not helpful. Yeah.
And I'm happy I realized it. It's like one of like a proud moment in me and Lindy. we were arguing
Lindy
about
Johnson.
Lindy
So
Johnson.
you must give people context because this feels very inside.
Um,
Lindy's a comedian from Cape Town. Very funny.
very funny, yeah. We had an argument about Jesse Smollett, right?
Juicy Smollett.
Juicy Smollett, about his innocence and his guilt. And it
Yeah.
was at the time when there wasn't much evidence around, but like stories weren't making sense.
Yeah.
Now, me and Lindy are arguing passionately, and she gets upset. And she's like, please, can we not talk about this anymore?
Yes.
Then I'm like, but Lindy, she's like, please don't force the thing. Then I was like, okay, cool. That's the moment where a woman says she doesn't want to do something anymore. Let it go. Then Lindy starts the argument again. And then when I responded, then she's like, please, I said, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Fine. But what I realized, arguing with her, and the facts that facts in inverted commas, the stuff that I'd read,
Yes.
well, it was not the stuff that she's read.
Yes.
And the stuff that she's read was stuff that I haven't read. So now, me and Lindy were fed completely different articles of the same story.
Yeah.
So there were like facts that she mentioned, like, for example, like the two Nigerian guys, their lawyer quit in the middle of nowhere because they didn't want no part of the thing, which makes them look guilty. But then I mentioned something else that she never had.
Yes.
And like, we could have argued about that for hours without realizing we've been fed different
Yeah.
stories.
And different narratives. Every media outlet's got its own perspective. Some, some institutions are left leaning, some are to the right, and they have their own agenda in how they cover the story. And remember, the reason you guys have different information is because, first of all, what you consume, and also how you curate the stuff you consume. People forget that when they're on Twitter, they're only seeing the stuff they chose to see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Even when you Google something, it will show you the stuff you want to see before. My Google search results and yours are completely different.
Yeah, like, so I've got the one, I don't know if I can find it on Twitter, but there's this American guy called Ben Shapiro.
Oh, I know Shapiro.
He's really right wing. I don't like him, but I follow his news outlet because I'm always fascinated by what the conservatives are saying. Yeah, it's called the National Review. And they're mad, like, they'll talk crazy shit, They'll support Trump, they'll knock Nancy Pelosi, they'll...
Is that Ben Shapiro's channel, or does he just contribute to it?
I think he's just a part of it. You see, like, here's a headline from the National Review. Movie Awards, : so male, so white, so what? Right? I think these guys don't give a fuck about your progressive and liberal ideas.
Yeah.
Right?
Did you hear what Ricky Gervais said in his monologue at the Golden Globes?
I haven't seen that yet.
He said, cool, like, there's too many white people here. This thing wasn't diverse enough. He saw the in memoriam, and there weren't enough black people, so he decided to cancel it. So maybe next year there'll be a few more black people would die, so that it could be more diverse.
Yeah, it's like, look at the National Review. Headline, woman lied to. These bad and boring debates. So them saying that to all their followers.
And those people feel so well informed. And there's smart people on both sides, bruh, and very convincing, bruh. So people on both sides, I think that happens on the liberal and progressive side as well.
Yeah,
where there's like misinformation about Republicans.
Yeah, not just misinformation. It's just, everyone thinks they're right. So why don't you listen to two people who think they're right and then generate your own opinion? And maybe your opinion will still lean in one direction. There's some of these articles I've read just to see what are these conservatives saying, and maybe there'll be one point that makes sense or a couple of points, but for the most part,
the conclusion is wrong.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like, like the other day I started reading this article about someone was knocking the ANC because, and the feel of the article or the tone of it was that the ANC is so focused on trying to change inequality that they haven't done so and so. So when I read it, I'm like, okay, there's a bit of critique here. This is an interesting point. And then I was like, it took another left where the guy was like, just a business. You're just a businessy guy who had gross like insights, and then at the end he lives in the UK, and then you're like,
You don't even know, bro.
yeah, like you started well, and your ideas were interesting, and then it just became some bullshit, and I was like, okay.
I think sometimes white people, and I'll even say men when in relation to women,
Mm-hmm.
they don't realize how we pick up those tones.
What do you mean?
Like if someone is complaining about the ANC, in the beginning it can seem like it's a fair criticism of the situation, but halfway through the article you can pick up like subtones of this is more personal.
Yeah.
Like I was listening to the radio the other day, and it was like, I won't mention the radio
The whole
station.
radio, all of it.
I don't want to mention the station, Jacaranda. And I was on it, funny enough. That's why I was listening to it.
Yeah.
But they were talking about Richard Maponya's funeral and how those police officers messed up the salute, whatever they were supposed to do.
The march, right?
But as they're talking about this video that's going viral and whatever, like I can pick up like, you guys are complaining about something else.
Yeah, then it starts having like mad racist undertones. And
Racist undertones. You just don't mention that it's black people, but now like that's not the state of the country and whatever. Like, bruh,
relax. It's 4 people that walked wrong.
they never practiced. That's all. They got
Yes.
called at short notice. There is no indicator of how well or bad the police force is doing.
Yeah.
It's coincidental that it's on par, but
It's a reflection of something. But to deduce that it's of the whole entire, and I'm just saying like, so we people take a snapshot of something and then create a whole perspective or idea of something.
like,
on
you
that,
see,
on
you
that,
see,
yeah,
you
on
see what I'm saying? Yeah.
30-second clip, and we do it all the time. If you think of the news, man, if somebody speaks at a press conference somewhere, they're not gonna show you the 30-minute thing, right?
Yeah.
They're gonna chop up a highlight for you.
Like I found, like, you're right, bro. I always tell people that, bro. I lean. I think a lot of people I'm encountering are leaning like towards EFF, because EFF is like full progressive, bro. No in between. I think like
Well, that's tricky.
DA and ANC are like not 50-50, but they both fairly progressive and conservative. And that's what makes our politics different from America. In America, it's like you this side or that side. We have like measures of each on each side. But when people complain to me about EFF and Julius Malema and the clip that they saw, then I asked them, did you watch the full 2-hour media briefing?
Yeah.
The answer is always no.
Of course not.
Talk to me once you've seen the full thing in all its context.
Yeah, I mean, no one's got the time to do that, and I think what we're hoping is that whatever journalist is involved has taken the time to look at that briefing. Excuse me, and with a fine-tooth comb, be able to
And be fair.
to understand the nuance, to report on it objectively. But yeah, without shitting on people, I just think some people are not informed about stuff. So they be talking hella spicy about shit they've never done, heard of. Like, I'm no doctor, but my grandmother was a nurse. And so there's certain things I know how to kind of deal with, like a small cut. I'm like,
Oh, your granny showed you.
yeah, I'm like, okay, clean this out with antiseptic, whatever. Then we get some.
My granny was also a nurse for like 40 years. I think she retired the year I was born.
Yeah.
But like whenever she used to like want to treat us and show us, like the one time what do you call it? What is work? Is that the camera?
Yeah, what happened there?
That might be out of memory, but it's fine. That one's still recorded.
Third clap.
So like my granny had like a shiver. I don't think it was Alzheimer's, but she used to shiver. And then one time I sprained my ankle badly, bruh. The way she forced to take off my sock, bruh, I never hated anyone more in that moment, bruh.
Yeah, I mean, but there's something she knew. Like,
Yeah.
I know rice, rest, ice, compression, elevation. Any injury, particularly like impact thing. If you take a knock or
Yeah,
so
it's
it's got to be
interesting.
up for blood flow, ice for swelling, compression as in wrap it in something, and rest it. Don't use it. To help your body heal.
Yeah.
But someone will argue with you. You'll say, "Hey, bro, you hurt your ankle. Put some ice on it. Elevate." Yeah. Then I'm like, fuck this guy, man.
Do you, bruh? It's your ankle.
Yeah, people don't know, but they feel very confident talking about things like. And so another thing I've become, or I'm trying to be careful of, is speaking like an expert.
I think I do that as well.
Yeah. So like even with comedy, when I talk to people, I'm like, I used to always end conversations with like, just to be clear, after everything I've said, I could still be completely wrong. Just be aware, because the things I'm telling you worked for me, and your narrative and mine are not the same.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm not telling you how. I'm just telling you how I did it, and a lot of the stuff you can't cut and paste. Some of it you can, but I do not want to speak like an expert, and I don't want people asking me questions like an expert. I don't know who I was talking to about this, but I was with a comedian in Cape Town in January, well known, and he said like whenever he was going to gigs, it felt like he always had to be sensei. Like he couldn't just chill.
Yeah, to be sensei.
Yeah, everyone was just like, so how did you do that? And how did you just like, hey dog, let me plump, dog. Let's talk soccer or basketball or
Yeah.
it's like, I can't wherever I go have to, get ready for a TED talk. It's like that's unfair to people also.
Yeah, like when other people treat you out like normal people will treat you like you must always be on. You love comedy so much that you want to talk about it 24/7. And it's like the rest of the time I also just want to chill out in.
Yeah, just relax, man. It's all about watches. I like watches now, so I want to find someone I can talk to about watches who can school me on stuff, because I live on the internet, so
Yeah.
so like I also want to speak to people who have different interests and they can put me onto stuff. And I remember doing a corporate sometime in 2019, and it was it was a dude's 40th birthday. He'd hired out the whole club,
Yeah.
but he worked at a company of financial advisors, and at the time there was a share offering at a company. And so at the end of the show, I'm in the smoking section, and I speak to one of the guys. I'm like, hey, tell me a little bit about your business. Cool. I ask him about the share offering. He's like, yo, honestly, I don't know if I'd go with that, and so. But the point is, I would have never known that. I would have just, in essence, made an uninformed decision. I would have seen I could have bought whatever shares at so much.
That
Keep
sounds
it.
like insider trading to me, bro.
Not really, because it's financial advice, and it was kind of off the record. It was just like, yeah, I'm not sure about those kind of offerings, and because he had no interest in that company, so I don't think in that regard it's financial insider trading, that Martha Stewart shit. But yeah, like just surround yourself with people that live in multiple worlds that consume different stuff. Some of their opinions you like, some of them you'll be like, Jesus, that's the most bigoted shit I've ever heard. Like, there's some people who just shock you because you don't spend.
Yeah, it's like, where did you get that from, bro?
Yeah, the danger I've realized is or someone, Loikwala told me, he said, some people, you like them, but it's only because you see them in small bursts.
Yeah.
Fuck around and spend 2 to 3 hours. Then you're like, oh shit. What is it, Billy? He's like, oh shit, I didn't know you were Nazi. Because the person's comfortable with you now. So they're like, please, come see the spare room we have. When you walk in, you're like, holy shit. So also don't spend too much time with people. Hour, 2 hours.
Yeah, but that's just
then
enough.
bounce.
Just before things about it. Cause like, yeah, once you see someone, you're like, nah, this person always irritates me with this thing. Today I'm going to tell him.
Yeah, and that's why people fight, is because they, like even with us with comedies, like you had the show for 3 hours. Eventually by hour 4, someone's gonna do some bullshit.
Now
you're like, yo, dog. So you've spent the whole day.
I realized also the other day, like, there's some people I haven't had like real arguments or disagreements with. I've known him for long, but it's like I see this person once every 2 weeks. There's no chance. We're always happy to see each other again.
Yeah, that's fine. Like, sorry. I'm fine with not seeing people all the time, and I'm also. There were these. It's such an insider thing, but there were these meetings that were happening.
Yeah.
About social issues. That's as much as I'll say. But the meetings were too long. So by the time we were an hour in, then it was like the whole thing. The meetings were turning.
It actually got quite confrontational and.
Yeah, but that's because we were there for too long. We didn't go here for an hour. So then it forced people to speak with brevity, to have urgency, to say what they needed to say in an allotted time. To say every speaker has 3 minutes. Gong, gong, gong.
Yeah.
So when you can just speak freely in spaces sometimes, eventually...
People are like, I'm tired of hearing you now.
Or like, oh, this is my time.
And then there was some of that there.
Yeah, and I'm sure I was guilty of it too, but I was also like, I just sat there for too long. Like, don't, if you have a lunch with someone, do an hour bounce.
Yeah.
Need to be somewhere else.
And the agenda is important.
Yeah, go hang, have a drink. If it's a quick catch up, dope. We see each other for an hour. And I go home, I work, or I go back to whatever it is, man. We don't have to plumb until.
I wanna meet with some of those people for the podcast and speak on some of the stuff that's discussed there. Just like generally and not specifically.
What kind of stuff? What do you mean general stuff?
Like those meetings that we had. Just like, sometimes someone will say something and it's actually something that the rest of the group doesn't agree with, like social issues wise, and it's just like to delve more into that because there you'll not get an opportunity to explain yourself.
Yes.
Fully. And people also sometimes, like the reason why when I started this podcast I wanted to speak alone on like a thing that I think about is that like I can speak for 40 minutes without anyone interrupting me. The thing of like, let me finish, you'll get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's an opportunity for me to speak, finish, and explain something completely. So even if I'm wrong, you know exactly where I stand. So if you need to correct me, you have more insight to, you see that point is where you missed the point. And even now, like I mentioned with me and Robbie's podcast, like sometimes we're fighting because the audience was too big.
What do you mean?
If it's just me and you talking, bro, you're not gonna now misconstrue the words that I'm saying. It's just me. There's no audience. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you'll argue with someone, and because they don't have an answer, then they go personal. But like, why are you shouting at me, bro? Like, yo, bro, I didn't shout at you, man.
Well, it is what it is. I mean, all of the stuff is performative. Everything we do, this more so because there's literally cameras here. But, and the tough thing with a lot of conversations, again, is people don't listen.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you just said you do the thing on your own, and so you avoid that interruption, and so sometimes the listening is we're not listening to what you're saying. We're listening to wait for you to stop. I'm waiting for my cue to talk.
Yeah.
I'm just like, and
I'm guilty of that also, bro.
Sure. I mean, I'm just like, I'm not mad anymore, but it was just like, this guy's done. Let me tell you about Texas, you motherfucker. But so sometimes we're just waiting for the cue to go. Oh, it's my turn to say what I was going to say in the first place. And
yeah.
It's tricky. People must listen. They must read. They must inform themselves. And they must question themselves, question the world. It doesn't have to be loaded. If you know what's also nice? Being ignorant is fun, bro. That's dope shit. When you don't care about.
I was saying to my girl, because the other day she was like, yo, you know so much stuff. Or I was on my phone, she was like, you look so serious as if you're reading something important. And it's just me going through like posts, going through Facebook, which gives me like a small idea of what's going on in the world or what the discussion is on certain things. And I said to her, like, sometimes I feel bad for you because...
Jesus, why?
Like, I speak directly. I think she's used to that now.
Yes.
I feel bad for her because sometimes she has no idea about a thing. like,
which is fine.
which is fine.
Yes.
But sometimes it's like, I don't know how you didn't know that this was happening. Like whether it's something that was trending for a specific reason.
Sure.
Let's say something trivial like the KFC proposal.
Yeah.
Heard nothing about it.
Sure.
But then where she works with mostly white people.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to her, it makes more sense. Like, you know, like how sometimes a white person can say, like, oh, I didn't know things were that bad.
Yeah.
It's because you've lived in a manner where you isolate yourself
Sure.
and you keep yourself in that world purposefully. Like,
Yeah.
you don't know because you didn't want to know.
Yes.
So now she's in that world and they know what they know in their circles, and there's things we don't know that's happening in the Afrikaans community or whatever.
Yes.
Like, you don't know famous people on CakeNet except for Skalk. But it's a whole nother world, bruh. There's Afrikaans comedians selling out arenas, bruh.
Of course, yeah. So it's all relative. Like, you know, your world is, you create your normal. So that's why you've got to get out of your space. You got to go to other people's things. You got to, you know, go to the opera, go watch some jazz. What happened there?
Nah, it's cool. That one's still recording.
Go. You just try things, consume different things. I think it's enriching.
Yeah.
It's also nice to find out sometimes that maybe you don't like a thing, but you can at least say you tried it and, hey, I had this, I had that, and so you just have a great idea of what's available out there, what you can consume, and I think that's about it. This was deep, bro. Is it always this deep?
You haven't seen me and Dylan's one yet. Me and Dylan's one was a bit more amped than me and Robbie's one. But like, I think this is a tone that I want for my podcast.
Yes.
Because like, although I'm interviewing comedians and stuff like that, or I'm speaking, it's not an interview.
Yeah,
it's
we're
like,
speaking.
It's not about comedy, so to speak. Like,
yes.
I want to discuss like things that you might disagree with the rest of the world with.
Yes.
Or things that will help me understand the world a bit better. Because sometimes I'm disagreeing because I don't understand.
Yes.
Like, logically.
Sure.
Like, I think I'm a very analytical, logical person. That's why I miss like all the other like social cues or
yes,
certain depth of emotion to certain things. So I think that's the point of this podcast. We're not talking. We're talking about ideas and values and that type of thing.
It's very philosophical.
Yeah, opinions.
All them shits. This was deep, bro. Thank you for this. Whatever this was.
Oh yeah,
it was dope. Salute.
Oh yeah. Mojak said he's gonna call me for his podcast also. That's on record.
Where?
You said you're gonna call me, bro.
Did I?
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop drinking.
Oh yeah. In your own time. There's no rush.
It's all good.
Thanks
Peace.
for listening this far. Bye.